February 28th, 2026, day one of Operation Epic Fury. Iran's navy consists of roughly 250 to 300 vessels of various sizes and capabilities, a mix of surface combatants, fast attack craft, mine layers, submarines, and support ships. Not a superpower fleet, but a regional force designed for one specific mission: control the Strait of Hormuz and threaten shipping lanes in the Persian Gulf. 2 weeks later, over 60 Iranian ships destroyed or disabled, major warships gone, logistics hubs obliterated, swarm boats eliminated, mine laying capability shattered. According to Admiral Brad Cooper, commander of the U.S. Central Command, Iran's navy has effectively collapsed. The systematic dismantling of an entire naval force in less than 2 weeks. And it raises a critical question: how did this happen so fast? The answer isn't just American firepower, it's strategy, doctrine, and decades of Iranian miscalculation finally coming home to roost. Because Iran built a navy designed to fight one kind of war, and the US just forced them into a completely different one. This is the story of how Iran's navy collapsed in 10 days, and why it might take decades to rebuild. Before Operation Epic Fury began, Iran's naval strategy was built on a single concept: asymmetric warfare. They couldn't match the US Navy ship for ship, so they didn't try. Instead, they built a force designed to exploit geography, use swarm tactics, deploy mines, and threaten to close the Strait of Hormuz if attacked. The idea was simple: you don't need a blue water navy if you can make a critical choke point too dangerous to transit. The Strait of Hormuz is just 21 miles wide at its narrowest point, and 20% of the world's oil passes through it every single day. Iran's entire naval doctrine revolved around this fact. If they could credibly threaten to close the strait, they had leverage. Leverage over global energy markets, leverage over regional powers, leverage over the United States. So, Iran built a navy for that mission. Fast attack boats that could swarm larger vessels, shore-based anti-ship missiles positioned along the coastline, naval mines that could be deployed rapidly in shallow waters, small submarines designed for coastal defense, and more recently, unmanned surface vehicles, essentially drone boats loaded with explosives configured as cruise missiles on water. Iran even institutionalized this split into 2 separate naval forces. The regular Islamic Republic of Iran Navy, or IRIN, maintained a traditional fleet for prestige and occasional long-distance deployments. Frigates, corvettes, support ships, vessels that looked like a conventional navy, but weren't really built for major combat. Then there was the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps Navy, or IRGC Navy. This was the real instrument of war, built specifically for harassment and denial operations in the Persian Gulf. Fast boats, missiles, mines, drones, everything was designed to make the strait unusable. And for years, it worked. Iran conducted exercises showing off underground storage facilities housing fast attack boats. They released footage of swarm tactics, dozens of small boats surrounding a target. They tested anti-ship missiles. They laid mines. They harassed commercial shipping. And the threat was real enough that insurance companies raised rates for vessels transiting the Gulf. That's asymmetric warfare. You don't need to win a naval battle. You just need to make the cost of transit too high. But then, Operation Epic Fury began, and within 10 days, the entire strategy collapsed. The first major loss was the IRIS Dina, a Muj-class frigate, one of Iran's most capable surface combatants, equipped with anti-ship missiles, radar systems, and helicopter support. On March 4th, a US Navy submarine tracked it in the Indian Ocean near Sri Lanka as it returned from naval exercises in India. A Mark 48 torpedo hit below the waterline. The ship sank. 87 personnel lost, 32 rescued. It was the first combat sinking of a major warship by a US submarine since World War II, and it sent a message: no Iranian ship is safe anywhere. Then came the strikes on Iranian naval infrastructure. The IRIS Shahid Bagheri, a converted commercial vessel designed as a drone carrier, was destroyed while docked at Bandar Abbas. This wasn't just a ship. It was Iran's attempt to extend drone warfare capabilities at sea, launching and supporting unmanned systems from a mobile platform. US and Israeli precision airstrikes obliterated it before it could even deploy. The IRIS Makran, a massive converted tanker serving as a floating logistics hub and forward operating base, was heavily damaged during the early days of the campaign. The Makran was critical to Iran's expeditionary ambitions, providing support for drones, helicopters, and special operations forces. It gave Iran the ability to project power beyond the Gulf. Not anymore. The IRIS Jamaran, a domestically produced corvette armed with missiles and air defense systems, was taken out during the initial strike waves targeting naval bases. The Sahand and Sabalan frigates, older but still capable surface combatants, were both struck during follow-up attacks on naval facilities. These weren't minor vessels. They were the backbone of Iran's conventional surface fleet. The destruction didn't stop with major warships. The US specifically targeted Iran's asymmetric capabilities, the very heart of their naval doctrine. According to US Central Command, 16 mine-laying vessels were destroyed near the Strait of Hormuz. These ships were designed to rapidly deploy naval mines in shallow waters, making the strait impassable. Another 10 mine ships were destroyed while still docked at port. That's 26 mine layers gone. Iran's ability to conduct mine warfare, one of its most potent asymmetric tools, effectively eliminated. Fast attack craft, the small boats used in swarm tactics, were hit hard as well, hundreds of them. Some destroyed at sea during patrols, others struck while docked. These vessels were central to Iran's strategy of overwhelming larger ships through numbers and surprise. Without them, the IRGC Navy loses its primary offensive capability in the Gulf. Satellite imagery published throughout the campaign shows the scale of destruction. Naval bases cratered, docking facilities collapsed, fuel storage hit, command centers flattened. By March 11th, Admiral Cooper confirmed that more than 60 Iranian vessels had been destroyed or disabled. Out of a total fleet of 250 to 300 ships, that's roughly 20 to 25% gone in less than 2 weeks. And the remainder? Scattered, disorganized, and hiding. So, why did Iran's Navy collapse so quickly? 3 reasons: geography, doctrine, and miscalculation. First, geography. Iran designed its navy to fight in the Persian Gulf, a confined, shallow body of water where geography narrows distances and partially neutralizes the advantages of a superior force. Island-studded waters, narrow passages, coastal missile batteries. It's terrain that favors small, fast vessels over large warships. But Operation Epic Fury didn't start in the Gulf. It started from the air, and air power doesn't care about narrow straits or shallow waters. US and Israeli aircraft struck Iranian naval bases from above, hitting ships while they were docked, destroying infrastructure before vessels could even deploy. Iran's geographic advantages meant nothing when the fight began hundreds of feet in the air. Second, doctrine. Iran's entire naval strategy was defensive and reactive. Threaten the strait if attacked. Deploy mines if necessary. Swarm vessels if they enter the Gulf. It's a doctrine built on deterrence, not offense. The problem? Deterrence only works if the other side believes the threat. Once Operation Epic Fury began, the US called Iran's bluff. And instead of waiting for Iran to close the strait, American forces preemptively destroyed the capability to do so. Mine layers hit before they could deploy. Fast boats struck before they could swarm. Shore batteries targeted before they could fire. Iran's reactive doctrine never had a chance to execute. Third, miscalculation. Iran believed its asymmetric capabilities would make it too costly for the US to attack, that the threat of closing the Strait of Hormuz would deter military action, that even if strikes occurred, the IRGC Navy could inflict enough damage on commercial shipping to force a ceasefire. They were wrong. The US didn't just strike Iran's Navy, it systematically dismantled it, targeting not just ships, but the entire infrastructure that supports naval operations: fuel depots, maintenance facilities, command centers, communications nodes, everything necessary to sustain a fleet. Without that infrastructure, even the ships that survived can't operate effectively. And there's historical precedent for this. In April 1988, the US Navy destroyed about half of Iran's conventional fleet in a single day during Operation Praying Mantis. That attack was retaliation for Iran mining the Gulf and damaging a US warship. The losses were so severe that Iran completely rethought its naval doctrine. That's when the shift to asymmetric warfare began. Iran realized it couldn't win a symmetrical fight against a superpower, so it stopped trying. For nearly 4 decades, that asymmetric doctrine worked, until Operation Epic Fury proved it didn't. But here's the critical part. Even with Iran's navy effectively collapsed, the threat hasn't disappeared, because Iran still has assets the US hasn't fully neutralized. Coastal anti-ship missile batteries positioned along the Gulf, small unmanned surface vehicles, drone boats, hidden in underground facilities, fast attack craft that survived the initial strikes, and the willingness to use all of them. On March 11th, Iranian forces hit the Mayuri Nauri, a Thai-flagged civilian tanker, as it attempted to transit the Strait of Hormuz. Photos from the crew's evacuation showed damage near the waterline, a signature of explosive-laden drone boats. The attack didn't sink the ship, but it sent a message. Even without a functioning navy, Iran can still disrupt shipping. Sasha Bruckman, a military analyst at the International Institute for Strategic Studies in London, explained it bluntly. While I think the Iranian Navy is largely ineffective in combat at this point, the IRGC Navy remains capable of disrupting shipping. This maintains an atmosphere of risk that most civilian shipping lines and insurance companies would find unacceptable. That's the reality. Iran doesn't need a functioning navy to close the Strait of Hormuz. It just needs to make transit dangerous enough that shipping companies refuse to risk it. Right now, they are. The strait is effectively closed, not because Iran controls it militarily, but because the threat level is too high for commercial vessels to operate. Mohammad Farsi, a former Iranian naval officer, told Radio Farda, "In my opinion, as a naval officer, there is no need for Iran to lay mines at the entrance to the Persian Gulf right now. The reason ships are not passing through is that the companies know that the possibility of being hit is extremely high." He pointed to Iranian drone capabilities near the islands of Kashim, Hangam, and Larak, positioned near major maritime transport corridors, as the most immediate threat. These drones don't require a navy to operate. They're launched from shore, controlled remotely, and they're small enough to evade detection until it's too late. This is the same tactic Ukraine used against Russia's Black Sea Fleet. Small unmanned boats loaded with explosives striking larger vessels at the waterline. Experts say Iranian variants are less technically sophisticated than Ukraine's, but in the confined waters of the Gulf, they don't need to be. So, Iran's conventional navy is gone, but the asymmetric threat remains, and that's enough to keep the strait closed. These strategic implications are massive. Iran lost the ability to project naval power beyond the Gulf. The destruction of vessels like the Makran and Shahid Bagheri ended Iran's expeditionary ambitions. No more long-distance deployments. No more drone carriers operating in the Indian Ocean. No more forward logistics hubs. Iran's navy is now a coastal defense force at best, and even that capability is severely degraded. Rebuilding will take decades. Iran doesn't have the industrial capacity to replace 60 ships quickly. Most of its major warships were either imported decades ago or built domestically using outdated designs. The Muj-class frigates, for example, are based on British designs from the 1960s. Iran's shipbuilding industry is limited. Sanctions prevent it from acquiring modern vessels or technology, and the expertise required to design and build advanced warships takes years to develop. Even if Iran started rebuilding today, it would take 10 to 15 years minimum to restore even a fraction of what was lost, and that's assuming they have the resources, which is unlikely. Iran's economy is collapsing under sanctions and the cost of the war. Oil exports are down. Revenue is plummeting. The regime is struggling to pay salaries and maintain basic services. Naval reconstruction isn't a priority when the government is fighting for survival. So what's left? A limited submarine force, mostly small coastal subs designed for defensive operations, shore-based missile batteries that require constant resupply and maintenance, a handful of fast attack craft hidden in underground facilities, and drones. Lots of drones. That's Iran's navy now, not a fleet. A collection of leftover assets trying to maintain a threat that's more psychological than tactical. But even in its diminished state, it's enough to keep global oil markets on edge, because the Strait of Hormuz is still too dangerous for commercial transit. And until that changes, Iran retains some leverage. Not the leverage it had before, but enough to matter. So here's the question. Did the US achieve its objective? Iran's navy is effectively destroyed. The threat to close the strait has been neutralized militarily, but the economic impact, soaring oil prices, disrupted shipping, market instability is exactly what Iran wanted. So, did Iran lose, or did they just shift the battlefield? Drop your answer in the comments. This is naval strategy in real time. If you made it this far, hit like and subscribe. We're covering the strategic lessons, the tactical decisions, and the long-term implications of this conflict. And if you want to support the channel, join the fleet. Loyalty badges, priority updates, exclusive military analysis. Click join and get on board. Iran's navy collapsed in 10 days, but the war isn't over. And the lessons from this collapse will reshape naval doctrine for decades. I'll see you in the next one.